Take 45,000. Okay. Hello today and welcome to the Deep Life Chats podcast. I'm Alicia and this is Keegan.
We have a name now? We have a name for our podcast?
Yep, that's what we decided. So today we're going to talk about a concept called internalized capitalism, because we don't know a better name to call it. There could be a better name to call it, but it's basically the ever-present underlying feeling of constantly needing to be doing something. And I'm going to read off some symptoms here. So, internalized capitalism. You can't relax. You feel like you have to do things nonstop, even on your days off or when spending time with friends and loved ones. You might even feel guilty for spending time with friends and loved ones. Future thinking, anxiety, being way too focused on the future and way too preoccupied and worried about the future. Being overwhelmed. You feel like your work is never done and there's just constant problems. You feel like you're never able to truly be present. You feel like you're a piece of shit if you're not constantly doing something productive. You basically feel never good enough. The work's never done and you're just not enough. So whatever you want to call it, I think we all, especially in this society in the United States and similar societies, can relate to all of what I just listed off.
Yeah, I mean, I think just breaking down the word internalized capitalism, I mean, capitalism is just a system that we live in that we're taught to spend more, work more, do more. You know, so when you internalize that, that goes out of your work life and it goes into your personal life.
Yeah, I mean, how can it not? Everything is connected. You can't truly like flip a switch and be in work mode and then in relaxation mode. There's always a process of switching between those two things.
Especially if you have a job that you take home too, you know?
Yeah.
Especially that.
So, I thought we would talk a little bit about our experiences of when we were deep in hustle culture and kind of the more traditional or normal ways of working and existing in this society, like going to college and having a traditional 9 to 5. So, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, give you, I guess, a little background. I mean, I went to college for 4.5 years. I was doing like a 5-year program. So, you know, from that and even before that in high school, you know, you're taught to quickly choose what you want to do in life without having any experience in what you want to do and what you know you want to do. So I went to a school where I actually got to work in college, which was nice, to get a little taste of what the real world was going to be like. But after that, I graduated and I went into a job for 3.5 years-ish, doing civil engineering work. And I quickly realized that when I got home, it was pretty difficult to kind of de-stress and get away from that hustle and bustle of, you know, the 9 to 5 job. And not only that, I had a boss who was pretty hard on us and kind of took away a lot of my confidence when it came to things that I was doing and things that I was getting paid to do. So I think that I kind of brought that home, you know, that hustle and bustle lifestyle of, you know, this was really, really work hard. And then maybe if you have time, you can play hard later.
Yeah.
So that was a big, you know, it was a big change for me going from college and high school where, you know, college you have a lot of extra time. High school you have probably a little less free time, honestly. But then going right into that job and getting part of that, you know, rat race was not fun. It affected me in a way that when I left and I went home, I would constantly thinking like, oh, did I get the date right on that job set plan, you know, like all those things like that. You know, you run through a lot of things through your mind and it's internalized, like we said, and it's all pretty unnecessary.
Carry it with you at all times.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that you know, you can't still have a 9 to 5 job. It's just a matter of thinking about how it affects you. And that's what we're kind of talking about today. Yeah. Because right now I'm looking to get another 9 to 5 job because that's what I want to do and life and think about.
But it's remote, and that's a lot different.
Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, because haven't we all had a rude ass boss / manager / all of the above that just makes our life pretty miserable? I mean, yeah. So my little story here is that in high school, I tried really hard. I took the AP classes. I tried to get good grades. I went to Colorado State University for 3 years for something that is not whatsoever in alignment with who I actually am as a person, because I had not up to that point done any soul searching, if you will, about what is my actual essence, what do I actually believe in and stand for. And so I dropped out of that experience. I had about a year of working at a hair salon, and then I went back to a different college in New Jersey for 1 year for fine arts, and I dropped out after that experience as well. And a lot of my reasons for dropping out the second time especially were finances and just not wanting to further my debt, and just, to be honest, feeling like I could get a better education of art through online courses, you know, or even just self-study, because I just didn't think it was worth it. But what I can remember from my first round of college, I would work 30 hours a week and still be in school for 15 or 16 credit hours, and it was a lot. And the result of being so busy and staying up late and studying all the time, and this goes for high school too. I worked at McDonald's after school for 4 or 5 hours, and I'd come home and I'd have 4 or 5 hours of homework. I'd be up to 2-3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, especially with AP, and it just takes away any ability to stop and reflect, to be present, to ask questions, to ask if you're happy, to ask if you're happy with what you're doing, and all of the above. And then when I was in college, the first round, I was in an abusive relationship and I didn't even realize it. And I think, among many other reasons, part of why I didn't even realize it is because I was too busy to realize it. You know, I couldn't stop and reflect and journal. I had homework and studying constantly. So yeah, that's another point to be made that I have written down here, is just how the school systems, especially in high school, they create people to accept having so much workload thrown at them, and you're not paid in high school, so it gets you conditioned and used to doing a lot of really tedious, hard, mentally intensive work with no compensation. And you carry that attitude into college, and you know, my internship was not paid, and you get used to not being properly compensated while bending over backwards for a corporation or for a company. And it's just a sad diminishing of our worth as a human being and our precious time here in this life that we have.
Yeah, on this beautiful planet.
Yeah, and I think it's very limiting. So
yeah, I mean, I think a big takeaway from that is like what she's saying, and what I talked about a little bit, is just time, right? I mean, time is our most precious resource, and if we're spending it on, you know, hustle and bustling and doing things that we may not even enjoy or even need, you know, it's not really worth it at that point, right? I mean, time should be spent valuable with your friends, with your family, with people that you love.
I never got to hang out with friends in high school. I missed out on being a teenager, because even when I would hang out with friends, go to their house after school, I'd feel so guilty about it. I should be doing homework right now. You know, if I go hang out with them on the weekend, I should be working, or I should be studying and doing homework, blah, blah, blah. And it's all meaningless nonsense. You never look back on high school being like, I'm so proud and happy of all the hours I spent doing homework. That's not a thing, you know?
No, you think about your happy times, your social environment, and the people that you made memories with, right?
It's the only thing that makes it worth going. Unless you really know in your heart that you want to do a certain profession that requires school, then that's another story. Then you're passionate about it, and maybe you're more naturally smart. Like I had ADHD, and I took so much longer than everyone else around me to do things. So that was part of my personal struggle with things. But another thing I wrote down is that these school systems also condition us to ignore our own needs for like rest and food, to ignore and never even consider like our mental health. Because if you show up at school, even as far back as elementary school, and your parents didn't give you money for lunch or whatever, a lot of times they'll just give you like a saltine pack and cow's breast milk, and that's never gonna fill you up. And then you're expected to still work as if you did have that meal. And I just feel like, as well as mental health and needing rest, you have to wake up so early to go to high school and some classes for college, and teenagers need more sleep, and yet they get like 5 hours of sleep because of everything I mentioned before. And when you're so used to that, you're not going to ask questions when you get older and get a job, and you're expected to do, what is it, overtime?
Yeah. And one big caveat here, people will say, is like, oh, well, that's your choice. You just choose to make your life that busy. But in our case, in ALISIA'S case, it's not really we're choosing that because that's what we're taught to think is the best choice, because that's literally what we're taught.
It's not like we wanted to. We're told what we want in a lot of these, school systems, and by our parents and by society. And we don't stop and ask ourselves if that's true. And with mental health, we have trigger warning, but we have these days sometimes where you show up in high school and someone committed suicide, and everyone's like, oh, I never saw it coming, blah, blah, blah. And people can really struggle. And it's the counselors and teachers and people around are so focused on prioritizing grades and schoolwork that they don't stop and even check in with the actual humanity component of the students in the room. And a lot of these mental health things can be easily overlooked.
Yeah, I mean, all the, these stories of all these people doing these horrible things, all it takes is one sit down with somebody actually asking them how they feel and what they're going through. And
potentially,
obviously potentially, but, a lot of times things can be solved through effective communication and living in the present and actually thinking about what you're going through.
Or even being seen and feeling like someone cares, because I know a huge feeling that I always felt in high school and college was that very few people cared, and the one teacher that did care, you remember them forever, and it's just a whole different experience. And that one teacher who cares, they're the ones who aren't so up your anus about perfect grades and perfect schoolwork. They're the ones that are more a little bit about, here's some actual wisdom about life and how to enjoy life, and not just the teachers that yell at you and say that you're in competition with everyone around you, when that's not even true, because you're all going to go off and do vastly different things and probably never see each other again.
Yeah, and as most of us know, when we get out of college or whatever, high school, whatever highest level education you are, when you get to that first job interview, your grades really don't matter. It's how well you do in that interview, how well you present yourself as a role that would fit well in this institution, in this company.
And networking.
And networking, of course. It's all about who you know.
Who you know.
And
which is why I always fucking failed.
Yeah, but failure is a great way to learn things.
In the conventional sense. I don't mean like actual failing. I mean like just not living up to certain expectations.
Yeah, but it's different because like it's interesting because we're taught like these grades and everything matter, but at the end of the day, it's all what you can bring to the table, even like people skills and like financial things like that stuff isn't taught, I mean, If everybody just had a little, a class on like job interviews or what's important in life, and maybe things would be a little bit different.
I think we should have classes on effective communication, abuse and relationship abuse, how to have healthy relationships, how to be happy, how to work through trauma, how to talk about your feelings, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be a different world?
That could be a whole episode too.
So, Keegan, when you were at your engineering job, like the office job, and you had your weekends, were you like overly attached to fleeting pleasures or like means of escape?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I could have, I wasn't, going out and socializing as much as I probably wanted to, even just because having to work, at my job 45 hours a week and not even getting paid for the extra 5 hours because of salary, that's a whole nother conversation. But, having all that stress during the week, it's like on your days off, all you want to do is just like veg out, read a book, like sit in the hot tub or whatever, like basically just tub? No, I didn't. Okay. I'm just saying if you had like a bathtub, I guess that's what I meant. But it takes almost like a day to like de-stress yourself, and then Sunday comes along and you're like, shit, I have to go to bed at 11 o'clock to wake up at 7 to start my whole week again.
Yeah, I mean, my poor mom, I'm so grateful for her and everything she does, but she has a stressful job, and she just feels like her days off are just consisting of mentally preparing to go back to that place again, and that's just, I don't think that's a way to live, and it's sad that people are forced into that. It disproportionately too, depending on your level of privilege that you're born into.
Yeah, and people, again, another caveat, there's, you choose to live that, but it's like, we're taught that buying things is how we show, our success, right? But nobody actually thinks about the internal success of our mental state, The happiest people in the world are not the most wealthy, the most rich. They're the most in tune with their own bodies, they're in tune with their own minds, in tune with their family's minds, spending time with their family. Those are the important things.
Yeah, and the cost of living, some people have to spend way higher percentages of their income on just the basic cost of living, and so they have no choice but to work even multiple jobs, and it's not fair, and I wish I could do something. I wish I could liberate everyone from this system.
Yeah, but this is what we're trying to do, is at least start the conversation and get people to maybe just go and Google, what is internalized capitalism? Do I suffer from these things? I mean, most of us do, and we don't even know
or whatever term is better than that.
Yeah, I mean, again, the only reason we go to that term is because we've watched a couple videos, and that's just...
There's not too much out there. But I wrote down a point that says, you get too busy to ask questions and too tired to make change to better your own life, but also change to better the world, because these kind of systems that are currently in place, they encourage you to be all man out for himself and in survival mode and in scarcity mindset. And when you're just trying to feed mouths and get by, you are way less likely to believe in your dreams or go after your dreams or to protest against something that's happening, because you're more likely to be like, well, that ain't affecting me, I don't have time, or you don't even notice it because you're so busy, you don't even notice that positive change is needed.
Yeah, not having the time to ask questions about how your life is going, like, that's just ridiculous to me that we don't even have time for that, or we don't make the time, or feel like we can't make the time.
Yeah, so conspiracy time here, but maybe there is a deeper purpose behind why things are set up as they are, so that people don't ask questions and don't try to create positive change, because the people in power, the people have money, the corporations, whatever you want to call it, whoever they are, they obviously benefit greatly from how things are. and they obviously don't really want things to change too much, if at all. So I think that's why they keep us busy, and that's why I think they give us, or they condition us to have these lives where we hate our jobs, and all we can look forward to in life is a fleeting pleasure like a food that we like to eat or a TV show. We're spending our time doing that. We're not spending our time being creative and making the world a better place.
And self-reflecting,
and
right?
asking questions, yeah.
And asking questions.
And if you're not self-reflecting and you don't even have time to self-reflect or even meditate, then you're going to be acting out of your ego and out of your triggers, which is putting out more negativity into the world. And it all has a ripple effect, keeping everyone in more of a fearful mindset, you know?
We could do a whole conversation on that.
And that is the
sure.
type of person that's easier to, I don't know if I want to say control, but
manipulate, maybe?
To benefit from, because they're not going to go against how the status quo is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then another point I wrote is that your career / your accomplishments are your identity in this kind of system. And
True.
So if you get laid off, or if you, I don't know, try to go after a career or something and it doesn't work out, you feel like worthless and you get depressed.
Yeah, I mean, think about, and a big factor in that, like that system of failure, maybe of not knowing what to do, that was set up where you don't even, the system was set up where you don't even have time to go and figure out what you want. You're just forced right into a job or into a major.
At like age 17.
Yeah, or whatever the age is. You know, I mean, we're speaking specifically in the United States. I know in Europe, some countries, they do a lot of leap years where they go and they stop doing studies and all these things, and they go out and live in the world for a little bit, and you kind of figure out what you want to do. But if we do that and then we pick, oh, God forbid, like we freaking choose the wrong occupation or career, and we have to fail and choose it, the little voice in our head is telling us, you know, don't do that. Like, they're going to shame you for that. I mean, I think that's kind of what you were hinting at, right?
Yeah, I mean, approval from others on what you choose to do with your life to earn money is a huge thing. It's something that I'm going through now because I want to be entrepreneurial, create content, do activism, and create art. And that's a very alternative way of getting income, and it's a gradual thing that takes time, and it can suck sometimes, the feelings. Like, I was so anxious about it last night, thinking about, oh my God, what do I do? What do I focus on? I have so many talents and ideas. What's actually worth pursuing? I wish I could just know the answer to what to do and what to, you know. And it makes you feel like you're not even worth being here, like, to be honest.
Yeah.
But honestly, our sense of worth and who we are, our essence, has nothing to do with that. It has to do with just, you know, are you a being of love, and are you harming others, or are you at the very least not harming others? And then I think it's good if you try to be against unnecessary harm. And I think we don't think that way when we're deeply into this system of just consumerism and fleeting pleasures that we get so emotionally attached to, like food, which is why one of the reasons why people have a hard time conceptualizing going vegan, because they're like, well, I hate my life, and if you take away my bacon too, then life's not even worth living. Like, people will literally give up sex for their whole life before they give up bacon because they're so attached. They don't have a lot of happiness and pleasure in life, so they're overly attached to those kinds of things that you can cheaply and quickly obtain in this culture.
Yeah, it just goes to show that the things that are important to us may not be the best thing for us, and our internalized happiness. But I mean, it just goes to show that if we're so stubborn on that, you know, maybe we're more stubborn with other things. I'm not sure where I was going with there, sorry, but
No, you're good.
I think that it's just like she said, it's just if we attach our happiness so much to something like an inanimate object, like our car or something, or you know, oh my god, like this guitar that I just worked 6 years for is like, if I don't get this guitar, it's not going to be, my life is incomplete, you know?
Yeah. When what's really important is the music that you're making on it.
Exactly. And the time and energy that you are enjoying doing it and sharing it with your friends, sharing it with your family.
What I think I tried to make this come out of my mouth earlier, but I didn't. But when you're overly focused on self-survival and or success, your empathy for others goes way down because you're entirely self-focused. This is a very self-focused society, as I said before, and you lose empathy for the struggles of others because every man's out for himself, and that also leads to just a lack of motivation to create positive change in the world and care about human rights issues and other issues and the planet and the animals.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say a little while ago that I forgot, but there's a lot of positive things that have happened recently too with like the internet, let's say. Like she was talking about how she wants to be an entrepreneur and things. You know, this millennial culture and whatever, Gen Z or whatever that we're on now, there are more opportunities for people, and the, you know, the view, the old baby boomer view of like, oh, like you have to get a job doing this, and or if you don't do that, you're not successful. That is changing, I think, which is good with the internet.
Yeah.
You know, and YouTube, things like that, podcasts, you know, it gives people more options to not have to do those cookie cutter jobs if they don't want to.
You can start an OnlyFans and make $700,000 a year.
Don't do that.
No, but like for real, there's jobs that exist now that didn't before, and the old way of viewing things is it was already limiting, but now it's 85 times more limiting because of what you just said.
Yeah.
And with the, you know, the P word, and everyone working remote and from home, it opens up a lot of opportunities for alternative lifestyles like van life or just traveling from country to country.
Yeah.
If you have the, you know, that's a better image than what I was doing. I have living for the weekends written down here. It's like
working for the weekend. What's that song?
I don't.
Men at Work.
No clue.
Everybody's working for. All right.
I don't know.
I don't have a singing career. Sorry.
So.
Working for the weekend.
Yeah, it's like putting off happiness, if then happiness. The only moment that exists is now. If you are not being happy now, or working towards that, or getting rid of whatever is blocking that, then you probably are never going to be happy. It's always going to be if then. It's always going to be an end goal, something that you're trying to get to. You have to learn to enjoy the process and the now, because there's never any moment in life that is not now. And the living for the weekends is paralleled by, we'll do fun things when we're retired, you know, and knock on wood. But like, some people don't even live until retirement, whether that's because they can't retire financially or because something happens. And I just don't think that we are brought by whatever means or whatever you believe in. I don't think we are here on this earth to not enjoy it and to just put things off and to just, you know, I said this in the last episode, but to just sell your soul, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like she was talking about things that happen later in life. When you're sitting on your deathbed, like,
yeah,
what do you have? You have your memories and your happiness and maybe, hopefully, the family around you. But you don't give a shit about what car you had, what house you had, how many guitars you have. All that stuff doesn't matter. It's important how happy you are internally, and how, you know, I don't know, how enjoyable your life was for you, how good your memories were. That's what's important.
If you're not happy on the inside and figuring out whatever's blocking that, nothing on the outside is going to truly change it, if not for more than like a day or however long the period is before the thing is not new and shiny anymore.
Yeah, and one more quick thing. I know, like, when we've had these little, you know, woke moments, little wake ups, you know, little epiphanies of wokements. Okay, there we go. Of, you know, when we changed and we became more aware of ourselves, it's pretty freeing. You know what I mean? Like, you realize, like, wow, like, I can live below my means. I don't have to live above my means and keep, when my salary increases, I have to buy more things and get into more debt. Like, once you realize that it's like, life is very simple, we just overcomplicate it, it's a freeing feeling. I mean, that's in my perspective.
Yeah, and if you're constantly busy, you cannot be aware. And awareness is the key to everything. Awareness is the first step to everything. What do you have if you don't have awareness, you know?
Yeah.
So, I think we've gone through pretty much all of the points that I wanted to go through, but I wanted to now ask, like, why? What is the purpose of all of this, how it is now? And can we opt out of it? I mean, I touched on what I conspiracy think the purpose of all of this is.
Yeah, but can we opt out of it? I mean,
I think we can. Sorry,
no,
cut you off.
Go ahead.
I think we can. I think that it's a limitless and abundant world. And if you choose to, then you shall.
Yeah, but obviously,
I know it's not that simple. But
we're not saying, you know, go live in the woods with nothing. Like, you can do that if you want to, but yeah, the system is set up the way it is, and it is difficult to get out of it, but it starts with your mindset, right? And that's what we're talking about today, is changing your mindset and just taking the time to actually think about your life in the present moment. Am I happy right now? And if the answer is no, then you better ask yourself why and what things you can do to change that.
Yeah.
A lot of the changes that you can make are pretty simple. You know what I mean? Obviously, when you have a lot of debt and other things, those things can weigh you down, but there's always a solution.
They don't have to, though.
No, they don't.
Because at the end of the day, money is also a concept / a digital number on a screen. It doesn't mean anything about how good or bad of a person you are, and it doesn't, you know, I know that's easy to say as someone with a certain level of privilege, but it is a concept more than it's an actual thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you say, like, asking yourself if you're happy, it's not like you can't have fluctuating moods and stuff. It's just more of like the overall snapshot of, are you in general happy?
Are you content? Yeah.
Just want to clarify that, because we're not about positive vibes only or that kind of thing.
Yeah, like as we talked about in our last episode and how I hinted at the Inside Out movie, we need all these different emotions, and we need to sit with them, and then we need to think, and we need to understand that they're all important and that they all serve us. They all keep us safe and happy and healthy.
So I think to opt out of this, we have the options to go be in the wilderness. I don't want to do that. I don't think most people do. Or you have the options of like off-grid living and more alternative ways of working, like remote working, which the internet provides lots of beautiful opportunities for. And I don't know, you have anything? I don't know.
No, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the biggest thing here that we're all fighting for is the word independence.
Yeah.
It's being able to do what you want to do, when you want to do it,
yes,
with whom you want to do it, and for how long you want to do it.
Yes.
And that's the whole system, is like, the system is not set up well where we're not thinking about that independence, you know? We're just thinking that, oh, well, if I don't have this job, then I'm not going to be able to do the things that make me happy. But, like, why not just do the things that make you happy and then figure out the money as you go along? I'm not saying, we're not here giving everybody advice, but, like,
Yeah.
I know independence is something that we're fighting very hard for. You know, doing side income, things like that. Like, those are the things that get you away from the rat race and the hustle and bustle. And then when you go and on a vacation or something, you can actually disconnect. You know, you can actually leave your emails on your computer and wait till you get back.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say something and it has left my brain.
It's, yeah, your tin hat fell off and it left the brain.
But I think it's about starting where you are. You know, if you are unfortunately living paycheck to paycheck and having certain limitations, I think it's about taking 5 minutes per day to work toward a goal that will bring you towards a better life situation. And
yeah, and we're not saying all these have the same solutions and the same answers for everybody's problem. Everybody's different. But I think everyone can benefit from just thinking a little bit more internally and in the present moment.
I thought of a new point to make just now, though.
One more point.
If you are not currently able to leave society as it is, like you still have to participate and opt into it as far as your job and whatnot, you still don't have to participate and opt in with your consciousness and with your, mentally and even emotionally. You can learn to see through the bullshit and you can learn to see what matters and what doesn't. So
yeah.
I think liberation can start now in that sense. Another thing about capitalism is that the ends justify the means is like a mantra for it.
True.
So it's little to not at all concerned with ethics towards people, the planet, and animals. And it's a sad way of being. And then I think it bleeds into us as people existing. We also don't think about ethics of anything that we purchase. We don't think about the, animal cruelty behind the dairy product, the cheese product we're buying, because we're just like, oh my god, I just love cheese so much, because your brain's addicted to it.
Or I love the color of the coffee that it creates when I put my creamer in.
When I was on my internship and I was working 60 hours a week with no pay, hard labor, I was like, life is shit, but I really enjoy my morning cup of coffee, and if someone would have tried to take away my half and half at that point, I would have probably been pretty pissed. Maybe not so pissed if they explained what happens in the dairy industry, but I think we just get so attached to the things that we buy, and because the system itself is not concerned with ethics, then we are also not concerned with ethics. And if we're not here on this planet trying to minimize harm, what are we doing? What are we even doing?
Yeah, especially with the amount of moral agency that we have. I mean, we have, with great power comes great responsibility. We have more power to change the world and to change everything than anybody knows or wants to admit. But with that, it comes a lot of responsibility. All the vulnerable animals in this world and the earth that we live on is our responsibility, right? Because we have this amount of moral agency.
Yep.
And sadly, this is the only earth that we know. So the earth is going to be here a long time after we're gone if we ever go extinct as humans. I think that's another conversation maybe, but let's say that, those things are really our responsibility because of how we are. But yeah.
And then, so I wanted to ask a question at the end here. Is capitalism always the problem? Is capitalism in and of itself evil? I think that's I don't know the exact answer to that, because I think a lot of people, especially who lean more left-wing, think, yes, capitalism is the problem, it's the thing that's evil. I don't know, I'm not an expert. I don't even barely know what the damn word means. I just know that it's not the most ethical system because people take advantage of it, but I think they take advantage of it because their own ego and moral code and ethics are off. I think possibly there could be a way of existing in the capitalist system while following an ethical and moral compass, because, I'm pretty sure owning a business is a capitalist thing.
Mm-hmm.
But owning a business, if it's run ethically and providing value to people, I don't think there's something immoral about that. So I wanted to put that in there. I think that's important.
Yeah, the more popular we make that idea of ethics and things like that, the more the world will follow. And that's where we've hinted at with veganism. I mean, all the different products that are in the stores now is just because of supply and demand.
Yeah.
And people are realizing that they want to live a more ethical life. They want to live a more environmentally friendly life. They want to live a healthier life.
Yeah.
And all these things come down to our mindset and our day-to-day.
It's just difficult because can we trust some of these really ego-driven people at the top to be ethical? Like, can we trust the politicians to be ethical? Probably not. So do we then break off and form like a different society? You know?
That's another question.
Do we just like live in a commune? Do we just never leave our house? Like, these are the things that I ponder, because I'm literally at this point where I don't want to participate in society. There's just too many things about it that the programming and the conditioning, I just want to opt out.
Yeah, but we're not completely ignorant to the world that we live in.
Yeah.
You know, there's a system that is set up, and unfortunately, you got to play the game a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
you have to play the game to get out of it.
Even if you have a house or a plot of land, you got to pay taxes on that. But you can still have an off-grid house on that, and you can live in as much control that you can have, right? I mean, and that's what we say by break out of the system. It's a gradual process, and again, it starts with internal recognition of the present moment.
Did I talk about burnout?
You've mentioned it a little bit, but...
Well, briefly, burnout is when you try and do the whole work multiple jobs or go to school and work and do that, and then you get overwhelmed with stress and cortisol, and you just have like a mental breakdown, and then you can't do anything, and then maybe you have to go move back in with your parent. And that's just, wouldn't it be nicer if we just had our health taken care of and weren't slave driven? I don't want to use the word slave, maybe that's not an appropriate word, but we weren't, whipped into action in these certain ways of working. And then, because happy workers do better work and they don't burn out and want to quit.
Yeah,
Did that make any sense?
And then we don't need, little nets outside the windows in China factories so people don't kill themselves.
God.
Sorry, but maybe we don't need that then, because people will actually...
Get your technology secondhand, by the way,
Yeah.
for ethical reasons.
Yeah.
And your clothing.
As much things
And
as
be
you
vegan.
can. Yeah, being vegan helps.
Watch Earthling Out on YouTube.
Yeah.
Watch Dominion documentary. I think we're about wrapped up here.
Yeah, it's getting pretty dark in this room now.
I just assaulted your eardrum.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, sorry that it got so dark.
Hopefully it'll turn out well. But again, we thank you for being here. We thank you for opening your mind to some maybe new ideas, some new terminology that you haven't been introduced to.
Yeah.
But
perhaps.
Yeah, until next time.
We hope you come back.
Yes.
And leave a request of a topic.
Yes, please.
That falls under such of being a deep life chat. We will deeply chat about pretty much anything.
Leave a comment. I don't care what it says. Just leave a comment.
Yeah.
Like the video.
You can leave a comment saying, how can these white people talk about this in their nice house?
Yeah, right?
That's not even ours.
That's not even ours. That's my parents' house.
Okay. All right, have a good day. Bye.